First of all, it's a terrible, terrible case that someone should go, exactly as Chuka said, and decide not just to blow themselves up, but to do it knowing they're full well they're blowing children and parents and families generally, and are going to kill and maim people. That's the first point we need to bear in mind. This is an extremist. The second point is, you know, I sat in the Cobra meetings, I sat in Cabinet, and I've talked to those who head up MI5, MI6, and they will tell you, and this is the truth of it, that every single day they are foiling attacks like this. Yeah. Please don't assume, and the public out there, do not assume that somehow this has got through because we're slack. I have to tell you, we owe a real debt to our security services and our police forces because every day they stop multiples of this kind of thing happening. So the first and foremost we do need. Now I recognise, I do genuinely recognise the frustration you'll be getting on your Twitter account and from viewers and listeners.
I just think it's what people are feeling.
I understand that.
How much more of
you know,
this?
we all feel exactly the same frustration, but you know, it's right again. What Chuka was saying, and we all are united in this is a multiple problem. In other words, you have to deal with it in different phases. The police and the security service head off what they consider to be potential attacks.
Okay.
But you need also to get into these communities and strip out this really ghastly radicalisation that excuses the idea that it's anywhere, written anywhere in any kind of religious teaching, that it is the right thing to do to go and blow people up. That is simply unacceptable.
If it is an ISIS sympathiser, an ISIS attack, and there are a lot of them on social media. I mean, what I find extraordinary, there are people openly on Twitter and Facebook right now gloating and boasting and celebrating about this. Who are these people? These companies, Twitter and Facebook, are going to find out who these people are and root these people out. But let me ask you a wider point. Donald Trump was in Saudi Arabia on Sunday making a big speech in which he told the leaders of 55 Muslim countries, I'm working on the presumption this is an ISIS sympathising attack. We don't know, but it's very likely. It's a suicide attack in this country, the like of which we've seen around Europe. It is most likely to be there. If it is that, is Trump right? And he's been very all over the place on this, we know that. But is he right in this basic point he makes, that Muslim communities around the world have got to be doing more to root out extremists in their midst?
Look, there are two elements to this. Yes, it is right to say to them, to challenge them, because some of this ghastliness that goes on in the media, in the Twitter sphere, out in parts of the Middle East is really quite appalling. And the demonising of Jews and everything else that goes on is behind a lot of this. But also here in our own domestic communities, we need to do more about checking this, and this is what the whole idea of prevent is about. But there's another element too, and I want to come back to the Facebook and the Twitters. We also here, within our very liberal establishment, need to understand that these organisations do need to step up to the plate. They have resisted endlessly being able to remove stuff from the media, and again
you mean the tech giants?
Exactly right. And I think what the public expects now is that if we're going to err slightly, I think it is forgivable to err on the idea that we are tighter on the idea of what goes onto these sites and that we're quicker onto it. And I mean, they owe us that at least.
They're definitely not. I mean, the evidence that we've taken, they are not nearly proactive enough in spite of their claims to the contrary. But you talked about President Trump and the speech to other nations.
Yeah.
This may well be a Brit. We don't know.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of the attacks that have happened over the last couple of years, they have been carried out by British people.
Well, it might well be, but here's my point to that, Chuka, which is this, which is last night there will have been Muslims on the security.
And you made the point earlier.
Right? Yes. There will be Muslims working in the hospitals, helping to save lives after this attack. There will be Muslims involved in every part of this in a good, positive way. Most Muslims in this country are thoroughly decent, law-abiding people. They're not the people perpetrating this. But if this turns out to be an extremist linking themselves to ISIS, then there will be people in this country who know who he is, right? They'll work with him. They will be family members. They'll be friends. They will know who he is. And no one can tell me that someone with a psychotic brain who's prepared to go and kill and maim young girls at a pop concert is not giving some little clue somewhere in his life.
I
think he just wakes up one day and does it.
Piers, you're jumping across a whole range.
I'm jumping to a pretty logical conclusion.
OK, there are people watching this show who will agree exactly with what you say. But
Am I wrong?
I'd say two things. Well, I'll say two things about that. First of all, to those who are watching, as you said, who know anything about this, they are to call the number that is on the Good Morning Britain Twitter feed, and you give that information to the police. But the second thing is this: don't think that the Muslim communities in this country don't recognise that these are issues that they have to deal with. They are dealing with them. And the third thing is, this was designed to terrorise and divide, and for us to turn in on ourselves and start blaming different communities. That is not the way we're going to make our country safe and unite our nation.
We need a concerted approach to this. You know, we've heard that Manchester is coming together. We need to come together. This is the United Kingdom, you know, one of the great countries of the world that can give a lead to the rest of the world. We will defeat this terrorism. We defeated IRA terrorism. We will defeat this terrorism. It may take a long time, but our liberal values will defeat this.